We often hear that knowledge is power. But what happens when our own idea of how much we know is well off?
Yeah, what if knowing less actually makes you feel more certain?
Exactly. It kind of blinds you to what you don't know. This whole counterintuitive thing is called the Dunning-Kruger Effect, and that's what we're diving into today.
It's a really fascinating bias, and honestly, it affects pretty much everyone, no matter their background or how expert they think they are.
The really surprising thing, though, is that the folks with the least actual skill are often the most convinced they're brilliant.
While the real experts tend to downplay their abilities, it's strange.
Right. So for this deep dive, we're looking at an article from Valor Tech. They focus a lot on tactical training, security, that kind of thing.
Ah, okay, so practical applications.
Yeah, their piece is called Exploiting Overconfidence, Understanding and Leveraging the Dunning-Kruger Effect in Psychological Operations and Intelligence. Quite a title.
It definitely points towards a specific angle.
It does. Our mission here is to really unpack this bias, understand how it works, and look at the implications, especially in those high-stakes areas like security, self-defense, things that are probably pretty relevant for you listening.
Good stuff.
And to help us navigate this psychological landscape, we've got our expert with us.
Happy to be here. Psychology meeting the real world,
Yeah.
especially in critical fields. It's always eye-opening.
Okay, let's get right into it then. What exactly is the Dunning-Kruger effect? Where did it come from?
So at its heart, it's a cognitive bias. Basically, people who aren't very good at something tend to think they're much better than they actually are.
Okay.
And conversely, people who are really skilled often underestimate how good they are compared to others.
Why does that happen?
It boils down to something called metacognition. That's the ability to think about your own thinking, to evaluate your own skills.
So if you're incompetent, you lack the ability to even see your own incompetence.
Pretty much. You're not just bad at the task, you're also bad at judging how bad you are. This was really pinned down in a major study back in 1999 by David Dunning and Justin Kruger.
Ah, the namesakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They looked at things like logical reasoning, grammar, and found this huge gap between how people actually performed and how they thought they performed.
So the worst performers thought they did.
Much better than they did, consistently rated themselves way higher. Meanwhile, the top performers often thought their skills were just average or slightly above.
That's quite a disconnect. The least capable think they're great. The most capable think they're just okay.
It is.
The Valor Tech article, it breaks this down into 4 key parts. Maybe we can walk through those to really get a handle on it.
Sure, that makes sense. Those 4 components really paint the full picture. So first, incompetent individuals overestimate their own skill levels.
Right.
They just don't have the basic knowledge or experience needed to judge their own performance accurately. They can't really see their mistakes for what they are.
Yeah, if you don't know what good looks like, how can you possibly know you're not there yet? Makes sense. Got a quick example.
Think about someone just starting, say, guitar. They learn one simple song, maybe CGD,
Okay.
and they might feel, wow, I'm pretty good. But they're completely unaware of all the technique, the timing, the musicality, the vast stuff they haven't even touched yet.
Yeah, okay, I get that. What's the second component?
Second is that incompetent individuals fail to recognize genuine skill in others. Their own lack of understanding kind of acts like blinkers. It stops them from seeing or appreciating real expertise when it's right in front of them.
So they might dismiss someone really skilled.
Yeah, or think they're being, like, overly complicated or not using common sense. Their own limited view becomes the standard.
But someone who knows zero about coding, looking at complex software and just seeing confusing lines.
Exactly. They can't appreciate the elegance or the efficiency because they don't grasp the fundamentals.
Okay. Component number 3.
Third, and this is really key, incompetent individuals fail to recognize the extent of their inadequacy.
So not just that they're bad, but how bad.
Precisely. The lack of knowledge isn't just a gap, it stops them from seeing how big the gap actually is. They don't know what they don't know, and crucially, they don't know how much they don't know.
Wow. It's like being lost at sea without even realizing you need a map, let alone how to read one.
That's a good way to put it, very much so.
Okay, and the fourth one, that's the flip side, right? The skilled people.
Yep. The fourth component is that skilled individuals tend to underestimate their own competence.
Why is that?
Well, because certain tasks feel relatively easy or natural to them, They often just assume those tasks are easy for everyone else, too.
Ah, the curse of knowledge kind of thing.
Sort of, yeah. It leads them to undervalue their own skills, maybe hesitate to call themselves an expert.
Their expertise becomes almost invisible to them because it's second nature.
Exactly right. Think of a seasoned negotiator. They might forget all the years of practice, the subtle cues they read. They
Mhm.
just do it and assume it's not that special.
Okay, that framework makes a lot of sense. Now, the Valor Tech article gets interesting because it talks about, well, exploiting this,
Yeah.
how you might use it. Let's start with spotting overconfidence in others. What are the signs?
Well, the article points out that people in the grip of this kind of overconfidence often talk more. They might reveal more than they should.
Uh,
Yeah, their belief in their own abilities can make them less cautious. They might make quicker, maybe rasher decisions, overlook risks that someone more self-aware would pause over.
The article gives this example in tradecraft, an operative tracking a target who thinks they're great at counter surveillance. How does that play out?
Right. So the operative might, say, apply a little more subtle pressure, increase the surveillance slightly, the target feeling secure, thinking I'd spot anything.
Gets complacent.
Exactly. They might stick to predictable routes, routines, maybe get sloppy with basic security checks because they're so sure they're untouchable. This makes them much easier to track, to figure out. Their overconfidence creates openings.
So the operative uses the target's own inflated ego against them.
Precisely. You apply a bit of pressure, and that overconfidence can make their weaknesses pop right out.
Okay, what about manipulating ego and insecurity?
Yeah.
How does Dunning-Kruger make someone vulnerable there?
Well, that inflated ego that often comes with it, that's a big lever. People who overestimate themselves are often very receptive to flattery.
Ah, validation seekers.
Right. Anything that confirms their high opinion of themselves. So a skilled operator could use that strategic praise, reinforcing that sense of self-importance
To what end?
to lower their guard, make them feel understood, important, and maybe more willing to take risks or spill information they'd normally protect.
The example was about, like, recruitment or intel gathering, playing on someone's belief in their own significance.
Correct. That targeted validation can make them less cautious, more open to suggestion or influence. It erodes their judgment.
This next one feels really relevant today. Misjudging skills in security, especially cyber.
Oh, absolutely. The consequences there can be huge. If someone overestimates their tech skills, digital security, even physical security protocols, they might think they've got Fort Knox set up.
When really the door's wide open.
Pretty much. Their actual competence is lacking, but they don't see it. That false confidence creates massive vulnerabilities that someone who actually knows their stuff can exploit easily.
The article mentioned a digital security expert thinking they're too smart for phishing.
Exactly that scenario. Their belief that I'd never fall for that makes them precisely the kind of person who might overlook the subtle signs in a really well-crafted phishing email. Their perceived invulnerability becomes their biggest weakness.
That is a scary thought. Okay, what about creating false feedback loops? That sneaks.
It is. This is about subtly manipulating someone's environment to give them fake validation. Constant but artificial signals that seem to confirm they're doing great, that they're really skilled.
On the effect.
It inflates their confidence even more, makes them potentially even more careless, more likely to make big mistakes based on that faulty self-image.
The example was a mole hunt. How does that work?
Right, imagine an organization trying to find a mole. Someone could subtly feed them false clues, little wins that seem to confirm their suspicions or validate their investigation methods.
Ah, so they think they're on the right track.
Yes, they feel competent, skilled, like they're closing in. This makes them double down on the false leads, potentially ignoring the real signs of infiltration or the actual mole because they're so convinced by the fake feedback.
They're being led down the garden path, essentially, blinded by their confidence in their own detective skills.
Precisely. Their belief in their ability to spot the adversary is being used directly against them.
And then there's psychological warfare. How does Dunning-Kruger fit into that bigger picture?
Well, in psychops, you're often trying to mess with the target's perceptions and decisions. Exploiting Dunning-Kruger lets you design situations or information that seems really simple or obvious to the target.
Okay.
This can lead them to make bad judgments because they overestimate how well they understand the situation, how capable they are of handling it. They draw the wrong conclusions based on flawed confidence.
The example of planting obvious false info was interesting. How does that achieve anything?
It's clever, right? The idea is the being so confident in their own smarts, sees this really obvious fake information and thinks, too easy, they must think I'm an idiot.
So they dismiss it.
They dismiss it easily. But that act of spotting the obvious fake reinforces their feeling of superiority and potentially makes them less likely to scrutinize other, more subtle or genuine threats. They're so busy feeling smart about spotting the decoy, they miss the real danger.
Wow, that's a kind of intellectual judo,
Yeah.
using their confidence to throw them off balance. Now, a really crucial point the article makes. Operatives, the people using these techniques, they're not immune themselves. Why is that so important to stress?
Oh, absolutely critical. Because overconfidence is just as dangerous for the operator as it is for the target, maybe even more so.
How so?
An operative who starts believing their own hype, who overestimates their tradecraft skills, they might cut corners on planning, miss subtle warning signs, take dumb risks, fail to adapt when things go sideways,
Jeopardizing the mission?
jeopardizing the mission, their team, their own safety. Complacency kills in that line of work.
So it's a real double-edged sword. You need to understand it to use it, but you absolutely have to guard against it in yourself.
Couldn't have said it better, which is why the Valor Tech piece wraps up by talking about how to mitigate the effect, especially in teams.
Okay, let's touch on those mitigation strategies. First one was self-assessment and peer feedback. Why both?
Well, like we said, accurate self-assessment is tricky, right? The effect itself gets in the way. So getting honest, candid feedback from trusted colleagues, from supervisors, that's essential.
An outside view.
Exactly. It helps you spot your blind spots, challenges your assumptions, gives you a reality check that your own biases might hide.
Okay. And the second mitigation method
Continuous learning, always developing.
makes sense.
Yeah, having that mindset of constantly improving is vital anyway, but especially in fields like security or tactics where things change so fast. Actively seeking out more knowledge, refining skills, staying up to date, it stops you from getting complacent, from falling into that trap of thinking you've mastered it all.
So recognizing that expertise isn't a destination, it's ongoing.
Yes, it's a process. Growth, adaptation, never thinking you're done.
So if we boil it all down, the Dunning-Kruger effect is this powerful reminder about the danger of not knowing what you don't know.
And also maybe undervaluing real expertise when it's combined with a bit of humility.
It really highlights how crucial self-awareness is and needing that commitment to keep learning, being open to feedback.
Absolutely. Essential for performing effectively, really, in any challenging field.
And for you listening, getting your head around this bias isn't just, interesting psychology trivia. It's a tool.
A framework.
Yeah, a framework for looking at your own skills and knowledge more critically in all parts of your life. And it helps make sense of why sometimes the people who seem least qualified project the most certainty.
And spotting those tendencies in other people, that can definitely be a strategic plus in different situations. Negotiations, assessing opponents, you name it.
So as you think about this conversation, maybe reflect a bit. Where in your own life, your work, your interests,
Yeah.
where might the Dunning-Kruger effect be lurking?
Yeah, are there areas where you might be a bit too confident? Or maybe, just maybe, areas where you're actually better than you give yourself credit for?
It's definitely something worth pondering, a really powerful lens for looking at ourselves and the world.
Indeed it is. A good reminder that true understanding often starts by admitting what we don't know and then embracing that journey of learning more.